Could
Yes.
I ask Alvaro a question?
Sure. Yes, please. Yes.
Alvaro, just relative to the other produce types that are out there, you know, nobody's really done it like the avocados from Mexico, but how does your response compare in the industry in terms of recovery from the COVID? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't have specific data done to support what I'm gonna say, right? I think that for some categories, probably it's a little hard to recuperate as we did, because we had the resources to activate in a very short term. One thing that we know for sure, based on some studies that we have done, is that produce is one of those categories that is a little bit in risk, right? If you lose your job, if you get in trouble financially, you might think about cutting some of your produce, right? So we want to be sure that we're not the product that they're cutting in that produce list, right? But there are some other categories that they don't have the marketing dollars to activate. So I assume that the regular onions, potatoes, apples, bananas are doing fine, but there are some other categories that might be a little bit difficult to recuperate.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
I have a quick question here, Alvaro, and from Perla Garcia. 35% of food service. Was this decline impacted nationwide? Can you say anything about Mexico or US?
Yeah, we're 100% a US company, so I'm not in charge of Mexico. I don't see anything on the Mexican market, so I cannot speak for that. But in the US market, the hit was national, 100%, right? It was national, like I was saying. Definitely, it hit us completely in the first weeks, but now we're seeing a recuperation that is very, very positive. I think that we're going to be good for the rest of the year in food service, but because we depend on big chains, and those big chains are the ones that are going to recuperate faster. There are some other categories that sell to smaller food service clients that probably they're going to suffer a little bit more.
I got one question here that from Rafael Takechel. The question is for Alvaro Luque. And if you can answer all this to the extent, we can always email it to you, but just wanted more information or examples on the type of research conducted, such as syndicated, focus groups, quantitative, qualitative, etc. Thank you.
Yeah, we did a combination based on the situation and exactly what we wanted for understanding the effects of COVID. At that time when we did the ad hoc study in March and April, and one specific study that we're doing right now to understand the effect of COVID moving forward, we're relying a little bit more in quantitative methodologies. But then on the education side, we needed to understand how important was washing your avocados and freezing your avocados compared to other education messages that we had, and we wanted to understand the reaction of the consumer to those messages. So we use qualitative more for that type of study. So it all depends, but we've done a combination of both.
Thank you so much, Alvaro, and I hope, Rafael, that answers your question. I'm going to give the thank you so much, Alvaro. Thank you, Laura. And I got some questions, so hope you're ready. I got a question from Armando Crespo. Planograms in the grocery stores have been reduced frequently to make a space for cleaning, wipes, and antibacterial categories. And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but when will spaces for other grocery products, such as food and candy, will return? You think it will return to normal?
Yeah, that's a great question. And unfortunately, I don't know if I have an answer to that. You know, we're starting to see some members bringing some of those programs back into store now, and certainly looking at innovative approaches to how they're bringing, you know, particularly some of the bulk items on the candy side back into store. But I don't know if I could give an actual kind of projection on near-term future.
Thank you. Another one from Rudy Arredondo. Rudy Arredondo is the chairman of the Hispanic Ranchers Association. And he has a question. Will NGA be doing a survey of your members to see what the impact of COVID-19 has had on their business? If so, when would you be able to share it?
Sure, yeah. So we recently launched and shared a survey that we do in partnership with FMS Holding Solutions. And it typically is a benchmark survey that covers the year prior. We did include some operational questions within that survey that was released last week. And just some top line findings, we found that sales for the previous year for independents did increase. And in turn, independents then reinvested in their stores with some of the e-commerce platforms or providing some updates, which we saw was really beneficial for independents during this pandemic. It's been certainly interesting. And the slide that I had in there, and I'm happy to share, were some of the additional operational changes that we saw independents take to respond to some of the safety protocols.
Thank you. I have another one. I got several ones, so I want to go. Question for Laura for the NGA independence. How was the e-commerce integration / adaptation at these difficult times supporting all your associates, small and businesses?
Yeah, so a number of our independents worked with various vendors. Again, a lot of what we've heard, we don't have hard data on this, but what we've heard from a number of our independent vendors, as well as the vendor members, was that they worked very quickly to turn on e-commerce platforms. You really saw the innovative spirit of independents really kind of come through during the pandemic in the way that they worked so quickly with their vendors to get an e-commerce solution uploaded and provided. And, you know, they also looked for other areas if they weren't quite ready to launch that e-commerce platform. We saw a number go out and say, hey, you can give us a call and we'll provide curb service on just using a telephone, or they set up text lines and they started to provide service that way.
Thank you. I have another one. This question is from Terry Beltran. Has NGA seen an increase with Hispanic grocers using Drizzly for e-commerce, online sales and delivery?
I haven't seen any hard data, although I will tell you I wouldn't be surprised if there had been an increase, just given seeing the increases in the online space and in the e-commerce space.
A very important question from Juan Prieto. He's a broker. And what is the future of sales rep with buyers as far as in the person-to-person presentation, and how difficult will be for new items, especially items you want buyers to taste? I'm sure this question will also apply to Carlos Castro and Marc later, but do you have any take on that regarding sales reps and brokers?
Yeah, yes, that's certainly something that we have heard. You know, the way that everybody is doing business has been impacted and is changing. And a lot of that goes back to relying on the relationships that independents, grocers and brokers and people throughout the food supply chain have created together. And we're trying to provide opportunities. I know a number of our other partners in the trade association world are trying to provide opportunities for these buyers to get together and so that everybody can continue to see what new products are out there and what they can offer for their customers.
I got Helen Martinez. She wants to know how to connect with the National Grocers Associations, and some of them people who they are asking how to become members. So I'll be sending you all that information. One thing is that I wanted to, and they all say pretty much the same, so I'm going to be sending you. Can you share any insights on what your members are doing to prepare for ongoing and future impacts on their supply chain, processes, system, technology, channels? And that probably will be a long response. So I can send you all that information. If you want to tackle that one, that's fine.
Yeah, that would be, I mean, that would be great to be able to have that information and then be able to individually respond to folks. One thing that we're seeing is, I think it's going to take a while for customers to, gravitate and have confidence to come back to, certain areas within the store, particularly thinking some of the salad bars and hot food bars areas. We have gotten together and stood up a industry relations committee where we've got a number of our members who are asking themselves these questions. And also going back to the survey question, we're going to be launching really kind of on a monthly basis surveys out to our members, asking them these types of questions and seeing how people are pivoting and some of the innovative solutions that they've implemented in their stores, and then sharing that information among our members. So, definitely this is a time that everybody we're all in this together and everybody's looking for information that they can share. And so I'm happy to reach out to folks, and as soon as we have information and data, we'd love to share that.
Speaking of this is a question that was addressed to you, and it has to do particularly with the e-commerce. Was that the future of, this question comes from Roxana Lapham. What does the future of marketing for retailers look like, and what platforms are recommended for e-commerce? So you mentioned that you have looked for some e-commerce platforms. Can you tell us, according to this question, can you please tell us some of the ones that you try, or what do you recommend?
Well, I don't have a name really, but I can tell you that, because the grocery store is a very involved business for the owners, it's a lot of decisions, on-the-fly decisions. I would recommend that you start looking at the platform, without feeling any pressure to take one, just to educate yourself, and which is what I'm doing. I have looked at many. We have set up meetings. We talk about them, and I like to keep it simple. Don't offer me the moon because I don't want to go to the moon. I want to serve my customers in the simpler way and the most cost-effective, and that's pretty much what you need to look to. There is a lot of them out there, and more will be appearing. If it's a local, platform, it's probably better if you're a local, store. So there is a lot to be learned about that. I am in that process too.
Thank you. And I have one more, and we're going to start with Marc Baum from the FMI, but I have this question which is so relevant and is addressed to you. This Armando is asking, and he thinks that he can imagine that your stores reach out to Central American customers. Are these target markets adapting to US and Mexican product offerings too? I imagine you have a good variety, a good mix of products between Central American and Mexican and US products, right?
So can you repeat the question, guys?
Basically, what he wants to know, if your target markets are adapting to the US and Mexican product offerings.
Yes, absolutely. What we find out is that not only the Mexican products, but Mexican products are kind of like very close to all of us because we're so close to Mexico, Central America, Guatemala, so food has become, an enjoyment. So now, more now that we're cooking everything at home. So I see people reaching out to other culture, trying new foods, you know, that they didn't do before. So what we're doing now is, you know, before we had all Mexicans, you know, all Central American, then South American, and then, you know, Puerto Rican, different kind of products. But now what we're doing is we're putting the choices, you know, let's say, you know, we're talking about beans, you know, then we put all the beans so that not only the non-Hispanics can see the different choices that they have and try new foods, but also, you know, Hispanic customers can actually, you know, try new experience and I see pretty much that people they love the way it's displayed now because they have choices.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you for your insight from the perspective of the owner of a supermarket. And everyone out there, I invite you to visit, if you are in Virginia, I invite you to visit his stores. They are an example of what a small retailer, an independent, is doing. Are there, this is from Randall Berman, are there alternatives to sampling that your organization is working on or you suggesting? Pretty much they're asking if you have some, I'm sure you can lead them to the website of
Are you talking about in-store sampling in the context of the pandemic?
No, they're talking about generally about sampling what your organization is working on suggesting because of the pandemic.
Absolutely. So I would, so Laura smartly put the actual URL up on her slide. If you go to the website, or you can just Google FMI COVID-19 resources or coronavirus resources, it'll take you to that page, and it's literally pages and pages long of all of the resources that you can avail yourself of, and they're in the public view. They are of absolutely no charge. And while you're there, I would encourage you to also kick the tires on all the other portfolio of FMI services that we can make available to retailers, wholesalers, product suppliers, as well as service providers.
Can you share, this is for coming from Ruben Rodriguez, can you share any insights on what your members are doing to prepare for ongoing and future impacts as far as supply chain processes, systems, technology, channels?
Yeah, we could spend it. That's a great question. Thank you for that. And we could spend it. I'll try to be brief. In a nutshell, we have been having regular meetings of our executive committee and our board. We meet with them fairly frequently anyway, at least quarterly for the full board, but we have been meeting with them, it seems like, every other week throughout this. And we've been taking on issues on a regular basis. So for example, in the context of the paper supply shortage, we had the major paper companies, Procter & Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, Georgia Pacific Global Tissue, which supplies private brands for a number of retailers, talk about what they were doing to expand capacity to meet demand. We've been meeting regularly with CPG CEOs to find out what they are learning through the course of this. We've been doing that on a geographic basis as well. We talk with our technology vendors on a regular basis. That's what led us to put up the Food Industry Exchange and that trading platform and the Talent Exchange, which is an HR platform. And what we hope, Gus, you know, the worst time to figure out how to practice good crisis management is during a crisis. And as I said, you know, this is not our first rodeo as an industry. We've been dealing with natural disasters and other crises for some time. We have very strong crisis management processes in place. We have a number of manuals, and you'll see that on the site. But what we're hoping is what we learn through this will hold us in good stead as we get back to blue sky days, so that when we get to the next crisis, whatever it is, we are in a much better position. And I think we've done a great job, notwithstanding the severity of this issue. We'll be in a much better position to accommodate every aspect of the consumer value chain.
What kind of measures do you feel like stores need to do to be more close to the people, to bring, this is a question that is really relevant to what you were saying, to be, what do they think that the owners of the stores probably need to do to be closer to the people, to feel that the people are being accompanied and to keep, at the same time, to keep social distance?
So listen, that's a great question. And there is no simple answer to it, but here's what I would do. You can meet with your people if you're staying separated. Yeah, here's something that drives me crazy. If we wear masks and if we use social distancing, many medical experts believe that inside of 6 to 8 weeks, this whole thing would be over with in the United States. Why in the hell we are not following those instructions, I have no idea. Some people don't like wearing a mask. I would suggest you get a mask on because it's being responsible. And I think it could help us solve this problem. But if you had small groups of people, employees, and you're an owner, and you go into the store, you meet with the small groups and make sure they're spread out around the table where there's plenty of room. First, make sure none of them are uncomfortable, but then just spend your time asking them questions. You can give them a view on how things are going, but ask them what they think. How do you think we can fix the problems that we've got? How do you think we can be more safe with our employees? These people have the answers to so many things because they're right at the front line where all the action is happening. These are the most important people in the company, not the CEO, not the board of directors. It's the frontline people. And give them a chance to voice their opinion, because I think you'll find they have probably more ideas for success than any of us have.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, let me stop. And
yeah,
if
go ahead.
you can't do it in person, in the store, then maybe you do it on Zoom. Do a Zoom call, but try to do it with a few enough people so that they have a chance to participate and they don't feel uncomfortable. And maybe you have to do 4 or 5 meetings instead of 1, but I would do it.
I have a couple of, not questions, but I just wanted to share with you, Frank Morales. Al, I just want to say thank you for your great recommendation, focusing on current situation. I am 100% agree with all your comments regarding staff and personnel. Thanks again. That's from Frank Morales.
Thank you, Frank.
Also I got a from Charlie Post. Thank you all. So there's so many people that are saying his comment more than questions are taking advantage of your exposition on this subject. So would you like to say something more, Al, before we proceed to our closing by Dan Cajon?
I don't want to take any time from the team, so I'll just say this last thing in closing. Great people leadership is something that works in a pandemic and it works after the pandemic. I'd suggest use this pandemic as a chance to gear up your leadership skills and your attention and focus on people. And the cool thing about it is it will help your business and you'll want to continue that ongoing after. So maybe it's a wake-up call for some of us. I just recently, I said to myself, I have got to get on these smaller Zoom calls with groups of people at Unify. And I've gotten out of the habit of doing some of the things I always do. I call it managing by walking around. I haven't been doing it, but I'm going to do it. And even if I have to manage it by Zooming around, I'll do that. But well, I hope at some point.
It's a great way. It's a great way to do it in the meantime. And hopefully when we come to the new normal.
You bet.
You made a comment about management by walking around. We had an executive with Kmart while they were still the big deal. He left early and, believe it or not, came to work for La Tortilleria and lived in Charlotte. And that was one of his favorite phrases, is management by walking around. And he would visit these Kmarts, and he achieved so much just by showing an interest and being in the moment around the store, in the operations. It's a great thing. So I really appreciated your comments. It's always good to be reminded of that. For the rest of you guys, I'm just, again, overwhelmed by the camaraderie and the sense that we are in this together. And so, one of the reasons, if not the main reason, we started Abasto years ago was just to provide a forum for people to communicate with each other. And it's just beyond delightful to see all you guys collaborating and sharing and texting. And even though we can't hop on planes and go see people, I really do appreciate the time you've taken again. For all you listeners, it's very gratifying. And so I'll just say thank you, Gus and your team, Anita, all you guys have put this together. You've done a fabulous job. And here at La Tortilleria, we pray for our employees, we pray for our vendors and our customers. And we know that this great difficulty that we are experiencing it with you guys, and that adversity is going to make us stronger. And that's not just a phrase, that's what adversity does. And so we look forward to joining you guys at your different conferences and events in the years to come. And in the meantime, we look forward to hanging out with you and helping you any way we can. So that goes for the magazine or La Tortilleria or personally. You all have friends here, and we hope we can count on you guys in the same way. So thanks again. Have a great day.